Perth.
I'm in Perth.
Yeah.
Got it. Sometimes we get a little bit of feedback at the beginning if the YouTube isn't muted.
We've got New York, we've got Washington State, we've got Uganda, we've got Florida, and
so cool. All right, there we go. Yay.
Oh.
Well, welcome everybody to Powerful Partnerships. My name is Georgia Jean, and there's my beautiful co-host on this one, Zenya. I just wanted to give a teeny little bit of background because every month I did this kind of like tarot reading for the collective, and I don't have my cards, but the support card for March was the Lovers card. So I decided to do a YouTube live about powerful partnerships because, of course, the Lovers card is about love, of course, but it's also about collaborations, options, bringing people together, harmonizing relationships. And Zenya and I have been working on a collaboration for a while called FAN, Frequency Activate Now, which we're kind of launching right now. So I thought perfect to bring her on and to focus specifically on creative partnerships and how we can really harness the energy of amazing relationships and partnerships in any aspect of a career, but particularly one which might be a little bit more challenging and you're trying to move forward and kind of get the edge, get the energetic edge and get the real world material edge by having powerful partnerships that move your goals and experiences further. So I want to introduce Zenya a little bit better. Zenya is amazing. I'm so grateful to be doing this collaboration with her because she has worked with some of the biggest recording artists in the recording business, in the entertainment industry, like Justin Timberlake, Jay-Z, and also people who've done a lot of really powerful collaborations as well. So she has a really top level viewpoint of that kind of networking, that kind of level of give you need to have to work with people, all different types of people with different skills and strengths, and to harness that level. She has that real world experience in the entertainment industry, and she's also a super magical multi-dimensional being.
That's what I feel the most. I'm like, I fit in, but I don't fit in, but I do, but I don't. It's yes. Anyone who's on this Zoom feels exactly the same way. So I already know that. Anyone who's been led here has been led here because they fit in, but they don't fit in, but they fit in, but they don't.
That's right. And how do you really work the energy where it's flowing, even when it doesn't feel like it's always clicking all the time? There's always ways you can tap into a partnership energy, whether it's with someone outside of you, like another person, another group of people, or, as I also like to say, partner with your inner creator. And you can even partner, and I'm going to share one of my most super powerful techniques that I have, how to partner with the concept of your future self, your future successful self, or even the archetype or the energy of somebody who's already, quote unquote, made it and is doing what you want to be doing with your career. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. But to get started, Zenya, you have worked with some really high-level creatives. By the way, and I want to give a big shout out because one of my favorite collaborators, or one of the artists, I haven't met Jordan in person, but one of your most beautiful collaborations that you've done, because Zenya's always doing singing on, you might have to give some of your credits here about the people that you've sung with and whatnot, but is a person who's on the call right now, Jordan Bridges, who they did an absolutely exquisite song called Do It Afraid, which is another big kind of motto of mine. Just go
coming
for
someone
it.
from someone who jumps out of planes every day. Do it afraid.
That's right. That's me. In case you don't know, I'm a skydiver. And
yeah, Georgia jumps. She's like done over 1,000 jumps out of a plane, and I'm afraid to do one. So I'm gonna do it afraid at one point.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of my skydiving buddies is on here. I can see your face, Erica. What's up? So yeah, Zenya. Do It Afraid, you and Jordan Bridges. That was a beautiful collaboration that just came out of nowhere. Tell us about some of the people you've collaborated with, some of your favorite collaborations, and some of the things that you really felt lined up for you.
So besides the fact that I've worked with some epic people that I grew up looking at, like, wow, I could never meet that person. I'm sitting here in front of a plaque with my name on it, with Justin Timberlake's face and everything all over it. I've worked with Justin Timberlake for 10 years plus. I've worked with Jay-Z, Demi Lovato, Shaggy, The Roots. I've performed with Stevie Wonder. I've performed with, oh my God, I'm forgetting. What's that?
You did the Super Bowl?
Oh, I did the Super Bowl. I've done Saturday Night Live 5 timers. Like,
you've done it 5 times?
Yeah. No, I mean, I've done the 5 timers. So when people who did 5 times, we did the Saturday Night Live 5 timers.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I've never told you that. But I mean, there's so many things that I feel like I've done that I just never share, because even just a part of mine and Georgia's culture. It's like, don't talk yourself too much. Don't talk about yourself too much, because you're up yourself. But that's what we tend to do. We like, no, it's whatever. But yeah, I've done a lot of cool things. But what I will say is, even about Jordan reaching out to me, Jordan just finished college or university in the UK, and he watched Justin Timberlake several times, and he did it afraid. He reached out to me via DM and was like, hey, would you like to collaborate with me? And I was like, who's this kid in my DM of DMs that's messaging me? Because most of the people that DM me, I'm like, I don't know if I like that song. But I went over and I looked at Jordan's stuff, and I was listening, and I was like, whoa, wow, like, this is powerful. So I was like, I'd love to. So he sends me over some music, and I go record this song about a situation that I went through, and I record it and wrote it from a perspective, like, of the other person's perspective. And I sent it back to Jordan with all these disclaimers of, like, he's, reaching out to me as like I'm some kind of, like, pedestal kind of person. And I'm like, is this okay to your masterpiece? Is this good? And then I was like, I don't know. And he was nervous because I kind of talked it down. And then he was like, what? This is amazing. Like, wow. What did you do?
It's absolutely beautiful. So, and then I took the song and made a skydiving video out of it. So that's my only big viral video.
The whole, like, irony of that whole song being called Do It Afraid, it started from Jordan reaching out to me, kind of like a cold call, doing it afraid. And you got to be in it to win it. So you got to ask. You got to, at least you ask. At least he asked. Like, if he didn't ask, we would never do it. So we went from being strangers to now we call each other bestie. Like, we're such close friends. So, I've worked with all of these people that have names. Jordan doesn't have the name, but yet.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just yet. It's really just a matter of yet, because he has everything that these other people have, other than the experience in the industry and the time, the seasoning and the time in it. That's it. Like, he has everything else. It's like, and sometimes I feel like at the beginning you have more than you do later, because you just hear too many people telling you what you should and shouldn't do.
Well, this is so interesting, because I think what we are doing with FAN, which is Frequency Activate Now, the idea behind FAN is that, we often fan on people who have what we don't. It's a big thing in showbiz. Like, these are my fans, or I'm fanning on this person. But having studied energy for a long time and been doing energy work for like 17 years and working with a whole bunch of different people, what I have come to understand why we fan on certain people. So Jordan kind of fanned on you from afar.
Sorry, Jordan, but it's whatever.
Huh?
Sorry, it's whatever. But
Well, and it's just we're drawn.
Now I'm fanning on Jordan.
Now you're fanning on Jordan. Yeah, I'm fanning on Jordan. But why we fan on somebody is because a lot of the times they hold the frequencies of what we're trying to get to. And that's why I kind of came up with this idea, which is like frequency activate now. You can sit with the energy of somebody else who, quote unquote, has what you need or is representing something that you're trying to get to. And you could, and with these tools and techniques that I have, you can kind of vibrationally unify with that energy. So even though Jordan, we're totally using you as our example today, but it's a classic example. Even though Jordan he's got all the incredible, beautiful musical skills and all of this, he doesn't yet have or didn't before he reached out to Zenya and put his album out, that kind of a connection to people working at that sort of big quote unquote big showbiz level. But you're drawn to people, and if you get your energy into alignment with that, then you can come in and actually partner with them.
Oh my God. Speaking of which, Georgia, I'm gonna just put a pin in what you're saying. I did the same thing with Justin Timberlake. I stood in front of the TV when everybody remembers over here on the side that I'm looking at. Everybody remembers when Justin Timberlake came out of the VMAs, out of that cassette tape after NSYNC, and was like, I'm a solo artist, like, I love you. Ain't nobody love you. I remember standing in front of that TV saying, I'm going to work with that guy. I said it out loud, out of my mouth. I'm going to work with that guy. And I was like a teenager. And then, boom, all of a sudden, years later.
You know what is so crazy, too? Because I have to share this. It's probably a little bit embarrassing, but I would get huge celebrity crushes. And this is why I really worked with the idea of crushes and stuff like that. Like when I was younger in Australia, when I was like, whatever, like just watching movies and stuff, I would get these really big like celebrity crushes on certain actors, and I love acting, I love performing and all that sort of stuff, and I'd have these mad crushes on people. And when I moved to LA, like years and years later, every single actor that I've had a major celebrity crush on, I have met. I've met them. I've either worked with them. I've worked for them. I've done, like, I partied with them, some kind of version of it. I met them, and but it was, and what I want to bring up about the power of fanning, when we really just have that open-hearted, you're almost in a fan fantasy, there's none of the real mind getting in the way of the pure energy you're putting out there when you're fanning, because you don't, when you're like, what does that mean?
The real mind.
So what I mean is, like, if I'm fanning on, like, if I'm having some kind of like celebrity fantasy about, I don't even want to admit who my crushes were, but anyway, like, I'll just say, whatever, celebrity X. If I'm having some kind of fantasy about meeting them, as you do when you're a teenager or whatever, you're like, oh my God, he's so hot. I want to, I want to stare into his eyes and love him, that you're just so full of the fantasy. There's no voice in your head saying it's not believable. Like, it's harder to actually hold that space with someone in real life, because you're not in that totally open energy space. You have the real, it's like, like maybe I'm, crushing on real person Y, and there's a voice in my head saying, oh, but I know he likes, he likes Melanie. I saw him look at her the other day, so our real world voice and our real world mind and our real world energy starts to creep in and create resistance to just really having this pure energy alignment with somebody or something that will actually bring it into manifestation. So I really looked at that. I was like, whenever I was having some kind of fantasy about a celebrity, I was never, my real mind was never getting in the way, saying, oh, he probably only likes blondes or something. It just never happened. And then when I got into a place where I could actually meet those celebrities, which was when I moved to Hollywood, I was just like meeting them constantly. Like Eddie Vedder was one of my, I fanned really hard on Pearl Jam. Eddie Vedder was one of my major crushes, musical, like I listened to his music. I merged with him energetically in the sense that I listened to his music obsessively. I loved him. I was like, oh my God. And then as soon as I moved to San Diego and I was working in a pizza restaurant, he came in and we had this moment to moment. Eye contact thing. Like that was the first person in the States that I just celebrity manifest. And then it was just like every single one. But I had to get to a logical point, a place and time and space for those things to actually happen. But it did also happen when I lived in Australia. Any musician or actor crashed on, I would meet. Yeah. So
I have a question. I have a question.
Yeah.
So I had a friend, and it was at the time I thought it was a close friend. I think it was a little, a close friend / foe that said to me one time that I had a fantasy addiction. And I was like, I mean, I've done quite well up until now because like I meditate and I manifest.
Yes. That's right.
And I wasn't sure if it was, and she said, I know people that have gone to therapy for like fantasy addictions. And I was like, I don't know if I fully agree with that. I feel like that's bringing somebody back down to a place of not believing in where you could go without limits, without limitation. So
well, this and I think you're bringing up a great point because I've also, I definitely have worked with people who felt very strong energy attractions to people. And what will happen, because the big thing that people don't understand about fanning, which is what I kind of help people to, and even myself, I didn't really understand it myself, because when we feel energy very strongly, and when an alignment is happening on some level, we feel energy very strongly, right? And if you're an energy sensitive person like I am too, I mean, it's very intense. Mm-hmm. And our usual interpretation of an attraction like that, the strength of an attraction like that, is that our minds will go, it's romantic. I'm going to end up with this person. And then the fantasy, then it gets a little.
That's the difference with me, though. I'm like, I'm going to work with this person.
You're going to work with
this person's wife. Like it's
exactly
about that.
Most people, and especially a lot of times, if it's an attraction that is coming from a creation that's in your heart, it's going to feel like love. It's going to feel like a very strong pull or draw. And one of the things I help people understand is to how to work with that energy so you're actually getting the creative force out of it, as opposed to getting into some kind of confusion or like, why do I feel so much love and draw for this person if we're not supposed to be together romantically?
It's not the same sex, it would be jealousy, right?
If it's not that, if it wasn't,
so if you're not attracted to, so say for example, for myself, I'll say like, if it's a man that I'm like, oh, I'm just so drawn by his energy. And then sometimes it's a woman, and like for me being in a creative space, it could be a woman where I could feel like jealousy towards her.
You might feel charge. Some kind of charge. So our minds want to put charge into something that it can understand. So even if you, for example, felt of a strong attraction to a same-sex person, and then you had a lot of judgments or uncertainty, like, does that mean I'm gay? I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was hetero the whole time, and now, no, it's just like, and so maybe the way your mind would take that energy and kind of interpret it into something understandable would be to feel jealousy or competition or something else. But what we're talking about here is charge. We're talking about when you meet people, or even for me, images are very powerful, because for me, a photo can really hold somebody's energy. If I feel a strong energy towards something, I have to really put my little wild, teenage girl pony brakes on and be like, simmer down, romantic crush girl. What is this actually about? Because for me, a lot of times it's been about spiritual growth or something else. It's not quite as fun as like getting a smooch on. But
oh my God, you're so funny.
But in the creative industry, bringing it back to that, and this is one of the ways you can harness that powerful energy of attraction in the creative industry. A lot of the times that when you feel the hots for someone, which I would say is charge, it's hot energy, it can be speaking to, we're going to collaborate and make something together. And what you're feeling is the energy, the potential of all of that. Or alternatively, they may be embodying a quality that you want, and you have the hots for that. You have the charge.
You have the hots for something that you desire so much.
You have something
specifically, and generally, it's embodied in somebody that you wouldn't normally be attracted to. I find that it's so
when you're like, wow,
my type, but I just am like, wow, and that's so powerful to distinguish.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I obviously being on tour with Justin, Justin Timberlake because I just call him by first name basis. Being on tour with him, he came from NSYNC to being a solo artist. So he has like fans from day one. And so I have met so many people that have powerful fan energy. To the point where maybe they've met him just at a fan meeting or some kind of like meeting in somewhat way, shape, or form, and feel very connected. Like, I know him, I know what he likes, I know what this, I know what this. It's like, it's so powerful. And for me, it was so fascinating because I thought to myself, like, it's so powerful that one person can have so much charge that people who don't know him personally feel as though they know him. And I think that's, for me, as a creative, as a writer, as an artist, as somebody that aspires to be like Justin is and have my music out in the world like that, it's like, how do I allow people in to know the parts of me that I allow them to know without
I think
letting them into my house?
When you have somebody also, and this is, I'm just talking some pure energy concepts for you guys to munch on and think about, or to fan on, even better, is that when somebody also gets to a certain level, they do have a lot of people projecting energy at them as well. So they have, if they know how to work it, they can also harness that energy to reach more people. So I think anybody can develop that kind of what I call a world-changing energy, if that's in their heart and in their intention and their desire to do in this life from some other part of themselves, if you understand how to work with energy. Because as we also see a lot with celebrities, when they have a lot of fan energy coming at them, so they've actually got a lot of energy they're working with now, they go through those big roller coasters, those big rises and falls, where either the energy and the fans, everybody's working like, oh my God, we love this person, and then now suddenly it's like, we hate this person, and then the roller coaster goes in the other direction. And most people don't understand energy at that level, how to work their own energy, how to master energy, and how to harness that in a way that's keeping that expansion going. So this is all stuff that I've been working with and for 18 years or however long I've been doing this. One of my clients is the wife of Mike Tyson, and she started reaching out to me kind of I think it was like the late 2000s, right when he started kind of having a big reinvention, and he got the Hangover, and then he's kind of acting took off. And I just work with her. I've never met him. I have no, I can't say I have any affiliation with him, but I work with her, and we work with his energy through her, because he's got a very powerful energy. So has she. I mean, they're both like, she would have to have a powerful energy to be with someone who has that much powerful energy. So, but his energy hasn't always been well organized. She's, I think, got a lot more. Anyway, she's
a powerful collaboration.
I don't want to talk too much about, like, but just saying
there's a powerful collaboration, and that's why it is great to collaborate when one person's falls short of certain things, another person steps in. Like,
because she's really does a lot of, she wrote his one-man show, she's his executive produced a lot of his films. She's very much involved in his behind the scenes. She's an amazing woman. I love her. She's just a beautiful, powerful, I mean, talking about goddess energy from, you know, the universe. So I just love her to bits, but she's very, very strong in her energy and in her structure and how she supports him. So they've also done a lot of spiritual stuff. Like now, if you listen to his podcast, it's all about transcending the ego and spirituality. And they've done the like DMT and stuff. But anyway, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Getting off the track, but basically talking about people who have big energy. When they don't know how to organize it or manage it, then it gets into that roller coaster. And also that really, when you understand energy, anyone can acquire what I call an integrated energy field, where they have that power to reach more people if that's their desire. And most people in the entertainment industry, people who are really pursuing the entertainment industry, they enjoy making the music, but they also have a passion in their heart to reach more people with it. And a lot of people want to uplift people through their music, which is what I kind of care about, helping and supporting people do that.
Sorry, Georgia, to cut you off. I was thinking, you know, I mean, for the woo-woo people, you know, listen or not, but even like, for example, now with Jupiter going into Aquarius, and it's like, it's talking more about, you know, getting out of the me and into more of the collective vibe. I feel like this is such a perfect conversation for us to at least set a platform with the people that we have on here, talking about the power of the collective.
That's right. Yeah.
And you know, I think for me personally, I know that everybody that's joined us is creative in some way, shape, or form. So for myself and a few people I know are in music, there's other people in different art forms. It's like the power of what would you say to everybody about the power of the collective, like using the power of the collective? How can we make more of a wave in the collective, in partnerships with the collective? Yeah.
So I think a lot about collective energy when we're talking about creative people who have that roller coaster, and also creative people who really take, a lot of the times when someone, and I see this a lot with the the creative people who work with a lot of people, is they feel very deeply, they feel very emotionally. And a lot of the times I really believe that the creative process is this alchemical process where we take something that feels like a pain and we put it through the creative alchemical process, and we create something that takes us into that journey and also takes us out of it, uplifts us. Like, you know, I mean, the amount of hours listening to Pearl Jam when I was in my teen angst and stuff like that. But it's really part of that.
Me too. Oh my God.
Why? You know, like, but it's part of that alchemical process because it creates a container where we can safely feel these deep emotions. And I feel like your top level creatives are often tapping into that big collective pain and doing this transmutation process and then creating this uplifting product. Because when I have an outlet to sit with my angst through music or through a movie, and it makes it okay for me to feel this and takes me somewhere further, that's a healing. Like, I've been doing healing work for a long time with people, but one thing I really try and teach people is that healing, if you're an artist, if you're a singer, if you're whoever you are, if you're a skydiver, I don't care what you're doing, if you are going through this process of growth and holding that as an embodiment, you are helping to elevate the collective in some way. And you're tapping into the collective energy, a lot of the times great artists will say, I don't know where this song came from. It just, I opened up and it just came through. I saw Jack White talk about that the other day on something, and that you just, as an artist, sometimes you just have to open your channel and let that stuff come in, because it's coming from the collective and it's coming from that desire to uplift.
I had this happen recently. Years ago, like 3 years ago, I channeled this song and I was like, I have never done the things, I know who I'm talking about, but I've never done the things that I'm writing in the song with this person. So why am I saying this? And then 3 years later, this person sent me a text and said, I had a dream about you last night and we did this. And it was all the things that I said in the song. And I was like, why am I writing this song? Where did this come from? And then I'd never told this person about the song. And I was like, whatever, I'll just send it over. And he was like, oh my God, it couldn't be any more accurate.
Yeah.
He's like, of course. That's what he said, of course. Because, being a woo-woo person, I'm just, when I finally open up that channel and I can let that out, I just want to learn how to open it full time. I feel like and I do feel like this is a collective thing. I know, like, Jordan and I spoke about this, and I know a bunch of my friends and I have creative friends have spoken about this in the last few months. It's been a bit of a ritual of like creativity, because we've had to think about so many other things. And I feel like we've been in this cocoon, like there's an onion layer to who we are. It doesn't matter whether we're in music or acting, or whether we just like to coloring in books, or whatever it is that we do, or, whether we skydive, but there's just such a creative, everybody has a creative outlet in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like a lot of people have felt so stagnant, but we're moving into a new layer and a new way of creativity. So there's just been a little, got to crawl before you walk kind of stage where it's like,
well, totally. And this is like another big sort of specialty of the work that I do, is this idea of initiation. And whenever, people go through spiritual initiations, and then I think people go through, because to me, it's all the same thing. I don't separate creativity from spirituality, from money, because it's all energy, it's all consciousness. And I just like to speak about things tailored in a way that people can kind of understand how it might pertain to their life. But to me, it's all energy. So whenever we're initiating into a next level of our consciousness, first of all, we don't know where we're going. We never know where we're going, because if we knew how to create that already, we would be there. Yeah. And so the nature of initiation, and when you have stagnation or confusion, or these periods where everything's blocked and like, why am I not the great artist? And there's all this stuff going on, right? And there's all this confusion. It's because a lot of the times it's the ego mind trying to control the process to go somewhere it doesn't know where to go. And that stagnation period, or the struggle period that people go through, the suffering, and I'm laughing about, I've been there, trust me, oh my God. But anyway, that struggle
so
where
bad at the time.
Why universe, God doesn't love me, all this, the shenanigans is because the ego is being broken. The ego itself is being broken and being cracked open. So that new level of consciousness, those songs, that metaphysical information, that whatever it is, can actually drop in without the old mind resisting. And this is really the most powerful partnership you can have, is that partnership with your broader consciousness. But you have to learn how to surrender your ego and your mind, and its ideas of how things should be, and even maybe what your goals are specifically. Like, Zenya and I, we in the recordings of the boot camp that we've released.
Oh yeah.
Frequency Activate. Now, this is a classic example, and Zenya's got a pretty loose consciousness, and about certain things, and I have a loose openness about certain things, and then we probably struggle with other things that we're more attached to. But in the boot camp, we were working on one of the goal techniques, how to align with the goals. It might be the one that I'm going to share later on here. And the goal was for her to win a Grammy in a specific category. So Zeddy, why don't you tell the story here? You were like, I want to win.
I was like, I want to win a global. I want to win a global Grammy. I want to win a Grammy in the global category.
Yeah, she won it. So
and I actually got considered in the global category, which I didn't even know I could even be considered in the global category at the time that I was talking. Yeah. This is way before I was even entered in it. But continue. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and then so we did this thing for her to align with the global category of the Grammys. And then you got invited to actually sit on the panel for the Grammys.
I was like one of 13 on the on the panel. And then the people who were running the panel, like, we want to train you up in the Grammys. We really loved you on the panel. And then even after the 2-day panel, they were like sending me things like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I was like, oh God, people like what I have to say. Like, people are listening to me. This is amazing. Yeah. So, and I was so passionate about it. I was so zoned in. I wasn't anywhere else when I was doing this panel. It was like supposed to be 2 5-hour days. It ended up being like 2 6-hour days. And some of the people on the panel were people I was like, oh my God, like, these are amazing people.
You're fanning people.
I was fanning on like a couple of people that were on the panel, and I was like, okay, all right. This is that. So yeah, I mean, I do understand at this point, there's like go ahead.
Well, I just want to say this super fast. If Zenya's mind had stayed really attached to only winning the global Grammy, she might have resisted the opportunity that ended up actually happening, which was ending up on the panel for the Grammys, right? The Grammy nomination panel.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm finished.
And there was people that actually were in the actual. There was only 6 people. There was people that I influenced to get through to that actual 6. So once it goes past our panel, then the members vote, and then there's 6 people for each category. And those people that I knew that were on that.
Yeah.
People, and I was like, I had something to do with that. And that makes me feel so good that I was a part of people being in a position that, and then even after that, speaking of which, I was part of an album that I did 5 songs on this one particular album that had 10 songs. I was featured on one, and I did vocal arrangements for 5. And it was voted one of Rolling Stone's top 100 albums of the year. So it was just like, and then we did something else, like some energetic work even previous to that, where I was like, oh, I want a viral video on TikTok. And then I ended up getting a video that was like, I think around 2 million views on TikTok. I mean, the work that I do with Georgia, like it really is because, I mean, Georgia has the skills. She has the wisdom and the skills and the openness. And how Georgia and I met, I actually saw Georgia's, I'm like mega commercial hippie. Like, I dress like a certain way, but no one knows. I'm like, peace, love. Oh my God. He's so multi-dimensional. And so I saw Georgia on Gaia TV, and I was like, not only is she an Aussie like me, but wow, what she said was so, like, it rung true to me. And so I actually loved, she kept saying about fan, and I was like, oh, I love that. I actually want to name my album that. Maybe I should reach out to her and ask her. And I was like, that's not fair to ask her that. I went through all this conversation in my mind, this inner dialogue. And then all of a sudden I moved from LA to Hawaii, and I hit up Georgia. I was like, hey, I'm an Australian. I watched your thing on Gaia TV. Do you want to meet? And she's like, oh yeah, cool. And then now we're like sisters. So but the thing is, like, when we met, we hit it off, and we got straight into the woo-woo work, which was so powerful for me because I was so open to like, I understand spirituality so much because I do understand that I can create my thoughts into something else invisible that moves people. Like I'm invisible art, and it moves people. So does Georgia when she works with Circle, when she works with all of her energy work that Georgia does. It just like was something invisible that she passed on to me, and then it helps my invisible work that passes onto the collective of my people. And it's just like so powerful to think that we just work with invisible stuff, and everyone's like, that's not real, that's not realistic.
Oh, well, I love that you're saying this idea of invisible. We didn't talk about this at all, but
no, we didn't. This just came up.
No, I love this because what I want to introduce this idea to everybody that and this is, it's something that we talked about in the Gaia TV documentary, and it's something that I've learned about energy work, consciousness, and all that sort of stuff, is that there's two states of manifestation, right? There's what is manifest, which is what you're basically experiencing physically with your physical senses, the physical senses that can pick up sight, sound, all this sort of stuff. And then there's knowingness. So I'm sitting here and I know where the bathroom is. And even though I can't see it right now, it's because the energy of it is so strong that when I arrive at a logical point in time and space, it's going to manifest, like if I go around the corner. So that's, if you have clarity on this concept, you're going to have a huge advantage of not getting distracted by the mind throwing a lot of shim-sham shimmery at you. So is a goal that you want, whether it's a partnership that you want, whether it's an award that you want, whether it's a certain amount of money that you want, is that goal manifest? Like this room is manifest. I have this lovely room to do this recording in. Or is your knowingness there so great that when you think about it, it's quite neutral. Like I know where the bathroom is. That says we have alignment. Anything other than that means there's some level of mind in the way. Like even if you're excited about something, you're like, oh my God, like I'm going to meet Justin Timberlake. Will it really happen? Like you're all excited. At some level, it isn't manifest yet because there's this energy of the excitement or whatever that's actually about the energy of separation still at that point. But what you may be feeling is you're feeling the energy of it forming. And the job that we have is to dissolve the energy that's still keeping it in separation, right? So Zenya saw my documentary, maybe felt some excitement, or when she saw Justin Timberlake on TV and was like, I'm going to work with that. She can feel the energy of something that's forming. But there's still that process when you thought about reaching out to me, is the mind going, oh, what's she going to think if I reach out?
Oh my God. I was standing over Georgia. But now it's just funny because
because then what that process does is then you just come into alignment, because then when you reached out, or whenever I've met people, or even when I've asked people who quote unquote are on a higher pedestal, quote unquote position to work with me, it's actually already very level because the energy of alignment already exists, that things match up and just happen. They just become manifest because there isn't that separation. But the invisible stuff that Zenya is talking about is really the frequency. So it's very easy to believe something is going to become manifest when it's already happened. Like I know the bathroom is there. I've experienced it. I have no doubt, right? I've already met Zenya. I know Zenya and I will meet again. I'm not we
have each other's numbers. You can call.
Yeah, will I get to meet Zenya again? No, because I've already manifested it, right?
No.
But when there is, huh?
Go ahead. I've got another.
Yeah, let me just try and get this out because it's kind of a big concept.
Get it out.
Get out, because it's like something I want you to all understand. When something hasn't yet manifest, we haven't experienced it with our physical senses yet, but it feels very strong. It's because we are picking up on the frequencies that are invisible to our senses as of yet. Our brain is picking up on it. It's learning how to interpret that unseen energy to the point that it can become physicalized, that it can become manifest. And that is actually the process of taking the unseen frequencies of creation and bringing them in through that initiative alchemical process to produce something that becomes physical, whether it is a song, whether it's a book, whether it's a workshop. Like, this is now a physicalized experience that we're having, that Zenya and I have been going backwards and forwards a bit for quite a while. Now it's actually manifest. So the work that I have been doing for a long time is to understand what is the steps it takes to take the unseen energy, the energy of the excitement, the energy of the frequencies that are getting activated when you fan on someone. You're like, whoa, who is this hottie, or whatever it is. You're like, whoa, feeling the frequencies. But the relationship, what it's supposed to be, is not yet manifest. And that process of the frequencies coming can create confusion in the mind that might want to direct it to an obvious thing, like, oh, it's romantic. Oh, it's, because they are physically beautiful, like our bodies are often like, that's got to mean like, whoa, this thing, right? But a lot of the times it's actually the energy of something creative that we're bringing forward. And I do believe that that's why a lot of creative people get a lot of crushes. They're always like having, that's the other part of like the celebrity tabloid thing, is that it's like, who's she dating now? Because there's so much vibey energy in the creative world.
Shifting with tabloids, you're shifting the collective energy in directions, like, and it's like everybody's saying the name Kanye West. Everybody's
and look. Yes, speaking of someone who I think has gotten out of balance, like Kanye West is a pretty good example of someone who's had a lot of energy put in him now and doesn't seem to be managing it that well, because when you have collective energy, it's a lot of energy for what I would call the individual identity, the little me ego, to know how to process. And that's when we go a little bit crazy as well, when people go a bit nuts, because their little me is like, what is all this energy of the collective? But they don't understand that that's actually what's happening, and they just can't, everything gets amplified, and they go on the roller coaster.
Well, speaking of like, when I got the Justin Timberlake gig, I didn't necessarily audition for it and then got asked. I was doing certain things energetically, then got asked, and then just sent over a quick video to show my skills, basically. So to speak on what it was that I was doing leading up to that, and I was thinking of like you and Erica, you both are in a space where you jump out of planes, so you're just in this like energy, like you're just feeling this energy. It's this adrenaline of like power, and I feel like I feel like you're in total heart space energy when you're doing something. Like, how powerful is that to be a bird every day? Like, that's just power. Like, I couldn't even imagine that feeling, right, Erica? Like, I know you're just like, it's just life. Like, I couldn't imagine not doing this. So I was in a space every day of, I found this one song that moved me. It was just a piano piece, and I heard it, and it just like touched my heart. And I thought, I'm going to play this every day and write 10 things that I'm grateful for every day. And I'm going to write them as though I already have them. And so I was just writing them, and the music made me feel from my heart space. So I found that song. I even posted on my like friends reel today, like replaying that song over again, because it didn't make me feel the way I wanted to feel in the
you were like trying to activate the frequencies again.
So I was listening to this one song every day, and for like 28 days I was just writing 10 things I was grateful for as though I already had them. And I just kept writing and writing and writing things. And then I was like down in Miami. I was working with one of the Marleys on his album. And I just was like, he asked me to go on tour. And it wasn't a lot of money, but obviously like each artist has a certain budget.
Is that Ziggy Marley you were working with?
Oh no, I was working with Kimani Marley. Yeah. And so I was working with him, and he was like, come on tour with me. And I was like, it wasn't a big budget, but I was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. And then all of a sudden I just like kind of just opened my heart, and I went down to Miami Beach, and I was living in New York at the time, but I was down there working, and I was having a great time working on Kimani stuff. He brought me to Colombia, and I did some work with him there. I performed with him there as a background singer, and I was working on his project, and I was like, okay, I'm happy to do this. But I went to the beach, and I was just like, universe, whatever you want me to do, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, I'm free. I'll go wherever you want me to go. And I'd been opening my heart from time and time again, every single day, like committed practice to opening my heart in gratitude. And I realized how much gratitude activated as a currency, because it bought me things that money couldn't buy. And then the next day I went back to where I was at, the hotel that I was at, and I was on the treadmill, 20 minutes done, boom, stop, call from the music director. Hey, Zenya, it was like November at the time. What are you doing January, February? I'm like, what's up? He's like, I've got the Justin Timberlake gig. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, well, let me check my schedule. Yeah, sure seems like I'm free. Cool. Okay, let's just do it, buddy. Let's go. So then all of a sudden I'm like having to say to Kimani, thank you so much for offering me this, but I've got this opportunity of a lifetime. And he was like, no, absolutely. I'm really proud of you. Go for it. And it was very supportive, which really meant a lot to me. And but it wasn't just that. Then so I don't know if many of you guys know, but I'm so deep in the Caribbean world. So there's this big soca singer from Trinidad and Tobago named Machel Montano, and him and I became friends. Like I just make friends with these big, amazing artist people. And Machel has just this big open heart energy as well. And he hit me up before I had to go to rehearsals on the 3rd. And he was like, listen, I'm flying back from South Africa from working with these South African artists, in which I told him to work with because he'd never heard of them before I said. And I was like, he also should have taken me. But he was like, I'm flying back from South Africa. How about I meet me at LaGuardia Airport and fly with me to Vegas. I'm working on my album. Come work with me, and then I'll send you to rehearsals in LA. And I was like, okay, cool. So I go with him to Vegas. And we're at the Palms, and he hits me up and he's like, come up to the studio. I'm here right now. There's some people that want to meet you. I was like, what? All right, cool. So I go up and I walk in, and there's Sean Stockram from Boys to Men, and another guy, this like Italian guy that I'm like, oh. And then I walk in, they're like, hi, I'm Sean. The other guy's like, hi, I'm Joe. And I'm like, hi, I'm Zenya. And Joe's like, who hired you? And I go, Machel. And he goes, no, who hired you? And I was like, Jesus. And both started laughing. And they went, no, for Justin Timberlake, who hired you? And I was like, oh, da, 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 da. And then Joe says, I toured with NSYNC and Justin the whole time. Like, these are the people that you should know, and these are great people. And he kind of like, it wasn't like the person before I got into the camp. It was like, I'll be there for you. And it was just awesome. And then that day I ended up recording on the album with Machel on the song with Boys to Men, and then flew the next day and went and started rehearsing with Justin Timberlake. And then I went on tour not only with Justin Timberlake, but with Justin Timberlake and Jay-Z. So it was just like, what is my life? I went from like having this like regular Newcastle girl, like blue collar, we do minimum wage jobs, or we're coal miners, or we do this kind of regular kind of jobs, to being like this. We just watch people and buy tickets to these concerts, to knowing the people being on the stage. And then I had to go back to Australia and be on a stage. And then Justin's like, Zenya's from Australia, and everyone's like, what? I know everyone was looking like, how did she get there? Like, how? I'm from like Newcastle, Australia, where we just beach bums, and we just like we enjoy a beautiful regular life. We love family life, and no one really. I mean, maybe now it's a bit different, but back then it was just like everybody now can kind of be like,
well, and actually in Australia for a long time in the entertainment industry, like you didn't leave Australia. You really got shamed out if you left Australia. Russell Crowe and Nicole Kidman with some of the first, and Mel Gibson, who was sort of Australian, but they were some of the first actors. And I mean, your time is a bit after this, but it wasn't, Australians didn't leave Australia because you would get really, like shamed.
It's interesting. I've noticed with cultures too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it started happening. It started becoming more acceptable. And then you have people like Cate Blanchett and, people who are more like, oh, well, they're a bit fabulous and they're leaving. So we have a lot of collective energy that says, don't put yourself out there and don't go for stuff like that. And it's one of the deep belief structures that I definitely had to look at a lot when I went to America, because I was like, I don't really think I can do everything that's in my heart in Australia because I'm so sensitive to other people's enery, kind of criticizing you for being a bit like wanting to go and stuff like that.
In Australia, I have one of my best friends, she's like, can I post this? Do I look like an idiot? I was like,
yeah, that's right.
One cares. But she's like, my friends do.
There's a lot of internalized voices. Yeah. And that's, again, that's part of like maybe even why, if you're somebody living in a small town somewhere, that you have these big crushes on celebrities or people who seem to be out there doing it, because there's a lot in the deep, programming inside saying, well, that's not allowed for me. Like the most I'm allowed to have is this kind of worship on this poster outside of myself, or Instagram, like all these people just like, yeah, Instagram, like worshiping these people, because inside of themselves, there's a steep belief structure that says, I'm not allowed to have this. Or even society says, well, only women under 25 are allowed to have, showbiz success or allowed to be desirable, or only men who are, this nationality are allowed to have success. So a lot of the work, when I helped my friend Vicki, she got on America's Got Talent. We had started doing stand-up together. She got America's Got Talent, and I had helped her with Nick at Night, Funniest Mum in America. And she actually won that. But she's at that point she was, I don't know, maybe she was like 50. She was like her character is this kind of like bigger, overweight, sort of leopard print bedecked, trailer trash lady, right? So she's hilarious, but she won this national competition and she still couldn't get management, because the industry was so biased towards young, attractive male comics. She still seemed like a risk, even though she'd won this nationally televised competition. And so when she got America's Got Talent, because I was all like, this is right, like, power to the people sort of thing. I said, listen, let me help you again this time, but this time we're going to get you management. It's about actually progressing your career through this. Because
partnerships.
Because there was quite a few years in between. And when we worked, we didn't work just on her personal energy. Like it wasn't just about her overcoming her nerves or having a belief. We went into the energetic framework of the entertainment industry, of the belief, the deep embedded belief structures that are in the judges, because when you're talking about a competition, when you're talking about TV success for a comedian, you're not talking about do the people think you're funny. You at the end of the food chain of that reality is, do the advertisers who pay for the shows ultimately believe that they can sell a product
Yeah.
And because then the what are they called? The producers of a show are like, if I have this person on my show, will the advertiser, particularly when it's network television, will the advertisers believe that our show is going to be a good place for them to put their product placement in? So that's actually the resistance that we went into and worked with, was the ideas that an overweight 60-year-old woman isn't like what the people want, which is just such BS. We worked on that level of energy, and she made it to the finals, and then she got picked up by Britney Spears' manager, and now she has a regular thing in Vegas. Every Tuesday she performs at Jimmy Kimmel Club. But her whole career launched where it hadn't launched before, because at that time when I helped her with that, I didn't have the skills to go into the bigger matrix of energy. I know some of this stuff sounds completely nuts, but when you just think about it logically, energy is very logical, and it works from both our personal level but also to the collective level. And everybody,
not when you're talking about like something invisible moving you, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, and everybody's career has a pathway that, even linearly in our logical mind, is somewhere it's saying, I need to be this, I need to do A, B, C, and D to get to E. Mm-hmm. But when you actually dissolve all of the linearity, you allow consciousness to just move through you and work through you, you can operate beyond all of that. So that's kind of, that's the long and the short of it, of how you not just only get to have an opportunity, how you harness the energy that will take an opportunity to its greatest possible greatest possible outcome. And that really does happen with really understanding how to go into the field of energy and work consistently enough that you know where resistance is and you're opening it up, so the frequencies are activating into like basically like a higher vibrational range, but you're just kind of plowing through resistance at that point.
Interesting how you can go into something and you can come out of something just as quickly.
It's I think that's where
honestly, like, this is like totally honest with everybody here, I have gone into a career that's been so abundant and then come out, and then I've gone in and come out, and I'm like, oh, you really think that when you're in it you're going to just stay in it and that's it? There is ups and downs and ups and downs.
Well, what I will say about that is, I think this is where people really lose it on the resistance phase, because when you're on the up, what is that? That's flow. There's no resistance, right? Now, because I've been working with energy for a long time, I know that there's certain levels of where resistance kicks in. So the first level might be personal resistance. Like, I have a belief structure that just says, well, I shouldn't go for something. Like, my family are going to think I'm like, bragging if I go for something. That's just a personal level of resistance. And you overcome that, you have a breakthrough. So you have an expansion then at that point, like, I got some auditions, or I booked a manager or something like that. Then you get to this next level of resistance. So career trajectory goes up. It's kind of like the stock market, but then you hit resistance layers. And this next level of resistance might be a more collective thing. It is about a belief structure around, well, what's my value at a certain age, or my gender, or my height, or whatever. Now there might be some collective belief structure in that. And that, if you stay in this resistance, what you'll experience is a lack of flow. But you really are expanding, because you wouldn't hit this level if you weren't expanding. But it's what you do with this level of resistance. If you believe it, you're just going to kind of go down again. But if you consume the energy in the resistance, you get your next level of expansion.
I wish I had you when I was on tour. I wish
I knew what I know now when I was doing stand-up and stuff, because I
feel like my whole thing with tour was like, I think everybody thinks, oh, okay, you're good at what you do, then that's it, right? But that was 5% of my job. My main job that was given to me by the universe when I was on tour with 180 people was collective. It was a collective. Yes. And the thing is, and just because I think I'm great at being in a collective doesn't mean I'm working with people who are on a collective wavelength. And so I went into it feeling like, all right, all inclusive, all collective. We just shine. We're team. And there's other people like, hell no, I'm the star here. And I'm like, yeah, but your name's not on the bill. And they're like, get at you. Like, it's just, and so it was like dealing with people, even though I wanted to be all inclusive and all collective, there's other people that were there with their own agendas. And so, and you know what? And neither is good or bad, because for me, that was my lesson. So I look back on it now and I'm like, I'm sure all of these people are different at this point in time now, but it's just like what we brought to the table at the time was like,
well, and I went through that at the Comedy Store too. I magic beginner's luck ended up, you know, quote unquote, being picked up by one of the top 3 clubs in LA, doing stand-up after a year of doing it, which is pretty unheard of, and just moving from a different country, be like, yeah, I'm going to be a comedian. And then within a year being like the world famous Comedy Store. But what I hit then was a lot of pushback, and I had no tools, and in fact it was going through that for years. When I left the Comedy Store, I actually kind of had this kind of spiritual event and developed the abilities that I have. But that is why what we're interested in supporting people is not only to get those first breaks, but how to keep working. It's like the stock market. Sometimes the energy is going down, but if you know what you're doing, you're going to make it go up again. But you have to understand that process and know how to work with energy at each level of the pushback, so your career is ultimately going on that expansive trajectory, not, oh my God, I had a moment and then wow, you know.
Like, so, Brian, I don't know if your question was to me, how many years since that? I think your question was to me. The tour, I've been working with Justin since 2013 until 2019. Tour finished in the middle of 2019, and then COVID hit, obviously 2020, even though it was COVID-19. But yeah, so it was not really that long ago, but obviously a whole whirlwind of things have happened since then. Life has changed, and
even the entertainment industry everything keeps changing too, because there's so much evolution going on as well.
Yeah, so I will say that my greatest lesson, I mean, once I was on stage and I knew what I had to do, a 2-hour fully choreographed show as a singer, becoming a dancer, and then also frontline and having a solo, and being with one of the world's biggest pop stars. It was just like so much pressure of that. But I feel like the pressure that I felt more than anything was being a woman in a place where it was mostly male dominated, being someone from across the other side of the world, fitting in with a bunch of people who would group me into, because I physically look like I might be from somewhere else, grouped into something else. And then the dynamics of like where each person was born, and then people grouping in this section, and then, you know, getting up early, even though you've only had a few hours sleep, and then making sure you're on time, and then being as diplomatic as possible, even though people are not diplomatic, and then, but also setting your boundaries without being weak or without being powerless or disempowering my own voice, my own self. I honestly would say that singing in front of thousands, millions of people was the easiest part.
The easy part. Same with stand up.
Easiest part. Let me tell you, I feel like when I came back from tour, I feel like I came back from war. Like, so, you know, I mean, it's amazing to sing behind a star. And I originally didn't come to the United States to be someone who was singing behind somebody, but I was like, opportunity arises, I'll take it. And I never felt like second best or anything. I just immediately was like, this is a really well-paid internship. This is a really well-paid internship. Be a star at your role. Be the best Zenya that sings in that same spot. Don't be better than anybody else, but be like, that's where you stand. Be the best version right there.
Yeah.
Shine in that spot that you've been given. So I took it upon myself to be part of the collective. And it's interesting, I think, you can say to people, I think it really does come with experience. You can say, go in and be a team member and da 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 da. But I don't think anybody realizes to walk in and be like, go in and be a team member, even though the rest of the team may not want to be a team member.
Right.
Stay true to becoming a team member, regardless of how everybody else wants to make people feel or bully you or treat you, or what it is, you know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, a lot of the times people don't realize what they're doing. It's just how they move through each day. It's personality types. It's like not personal either, but it's whoa,
it's like you have a lot of energy in those. A lot of those people that you're working with, they're also getting all of that energy from the audiences every night. I know before I do an event, like a retreat or something, a live event, I can barely sleep the night before. I have so much energy coursing into my system for something that I'm like,
I'm up there thinking about if I'm going to do laundry in the next city.
Well, yeah, but also but people who are touring artists, they're creatives. They're not personal development people. I'm a personal development person. I have the tools for personal development. So you're going into these environments where people are creatives. That energy is channeling in, and it's also going through their egos or whatever, their conflicted states all over the place. A lot of people are more unconscious. So if you're going to get into these worlds, and it's the stuff I wish I understood when I was doing stand-up. How do I hold mastery of my energy when I am around unconscious energy so I can keep ascending even when there's like all this shimshammery going on around me? That makes things less painful and more sustainable, which is another big, part of the work that we're kind of offering here, is to help people have those, they're almost like energetic survival skills when you're dealing with that much flow. Because a lot of the reason why people may not want to even unconsciously go to a next level is because you're talking volume of energy now. You're not just talking about your volume of energy expanding. You're talking about the volume of the energy around you that might be more chaotic. But there are ways to align that. So even though I could walk into a room and it's absolute chaos in another room, but if my energy is really strong, when I go into that room, I'm going to frequency activate now the people in that room to help harmonize the energy so it's less personally chaotic for me, even though people might be like, people creating absolute chaos. That's not the world I'm going to experience as I move from room to room of my reality once I've learned these kind of powerful tool alignments.
It does take a lot though, right, Georgia? Like, I mean, when your environment, for me, I'm moving from, first tour was 2 years on the road, 80% of the year. And I'm around people who are also, I was basically a single woman, kind of. And then I was in a relationship, but most of these people are on the road. They're missing their kids. I would go home. I'm like, where do I keep the cups and plates again? And then I don't get enough sleep. And, each of these people are there away from their wives, their families, all these people. Everybody's just like, I'm sick of seeing your face. Don't breathe, run your nose whistles when you sleep. Like, shut up. It's just like so annoying. And then you just pick anything like, their breath smelled bad today. I'm just so sick of them. It's just like all of this, and the environment just gets really low. I swear to you, I feel like tours need people like yourself and myself on there. So it's like, because it's really difficult to be in that vibration. Everybody has gone through it. I know everybody that is logged in right now has been in a room full of people that are so low vibe. No matter how high vibrational you guys have been, everybody's just like sinkers, like rocks, like anchors to you.
Well, and sometimes the higher vibration push that resistance up initially as well.
Yeah, so I really, this, because I went through the first tour and I felt like shit, and that's also like just my experience of it. That's just my experience of it. Maybe other people felt like, yeah, it was the best. Second one, I was like, I promise I will be myself. I promised myself I will be myself regardless of anybody, how anybody treats me. And I did. And I noticed one of the guys came up to me and he goes, I don't know who this is, but I like her. She can stay. And I was like, oh.
Well, it sounds like you initiated yourself from one level to the next to be able to hold more space.
And it was me. I take accountability.
Yeah, that's right. You take accountability. And that is one of the big things of this work that we do. It's like, if you stay in a little me identity story where you kind of stay like, you can, and this does happen, you can be victimized, you can be abused, but if you stay in that, you'll perpetuate those storylines because you're disconnected from the greater power of the bigger energy that you are, which really actually writes the story. So a lot of what we do is to help people to witness. So when I'm saying something like my friend Vicki faced this bias in the industry, when we are able to witness, okay, here is the resistance, here's the problem, like they don't like women above 30 in the industry. Instead of pretending that doesn't exist in the matrix as we're perceiving it right now, we work with that energy. We stand in a greater witness and powerful position to witness it, and then transmute it and create expansion. So a lot of it's really about, when you feel the pushback, what do you do with it? If you have tools that work from a broader perspective, you can take the pushback and expand with it. And a lot of people do that unconsciously as they go along this journey. But I've just worked out how to do that process much faster, so you don't have to spend 2 years in hell.
Right, exactly. Oh my God.
Getting pushed around like a leaf, because that's so exhausting for anybody out there trying to do anything just on top of the energy it takes to be creative, to deal with all of that intense other people's energy. And it's a big thing that we teach. How do you work with other people's energy? How do you actually take the resistance and the charge between you and other people and get the expansion? So I think I want to just because we're getting running sort of a little bit out of time, so I wanted to share this one super powerful tool. Does someone want to be a guinea pig, or I can just work with the energy of everybody in the group right now, or I can work with Zenya? But if someone really thinking about this idea of fanning on somebody, and it can be somebody you want to work with, somebody who for you is a role model, someone you're aspiring to work with. It can be a future version of yourself, which is like about partnering with your broader energy. Or it can be, just somebody who's kind of like an archetypal embodiment of the success that you would like to have. So what do we do about people who fan over us? Well, if you don't resist the energy of people fanning on you, you also can learn how to work with it and gain expansion, instead of being more like, oh, that's getting like kind of creepy right now. Charge, it doesn't matter. So I have a totally different, Brian's writing in here, sometimes we attract others who are energy vampires. From the perspective that I work on, I would say everybody is us. And so that could be the case until you transcend the illusion of that. And that would be something you would be initiating into your next level of consciousness to understand that that I would work more with the theme of energy vampire. And then we would transcend that theme, and then you would get into expansion. So, because that's a big one. A lot of people will stay in that, especially as they're opening up energetically, in the same way that I can feel abused by, like there was people at the Comedy Store who were very toxic and abusive. In the real world, then there's this sort of energy realm where we can also start projecting these storylines of being abused into the energy world. And that gets really weird. So it's very helpful to understand some of these tools before before you expand.
Reka. Yeah.
You want to connect with your successful future self who already has it and has done it? Yeah, let's just do it. Why don't I just do this collectively? I'm going to do this exercise with you all collectively. And thank you, everybody, for in case we get a little zony woo-woo after this. Just before I do the actual tool, I just want to reinforce the what Zenya and I are offering with this new boot camp. It's called Fan Frequency Activate Now. It teaches, I think, 5 of the core techniques that I've developed over the years working with people, working with all kinds of people, also a lot of stuff in chronic physical conditions, this particular workshop is just tailored towards creatives because I am a creative too, and I want to support people who are doing work that wants to reach more people and uplift people, and entertainment and creativity I think is a wonderful outlet for that. But so this bootcamp sort of has that slant, and we're also going to be offering a master group as well, where we do a monthly session where Zenya and I will work together both on the practical sides of being in the entertainment industry and on the energetic side. So we'll work with your energy, we'll work with the collective energy that's creating resistance to your career moving forward, from your expression moving forward. It's going to be super powerful. I've been doing this like alchemy work for ages, and if anyone who does the conference calls with me or anything wants to just pop in and be like, yeah, it's awesome.
Oh my God, if you don't already do the conference calls with Georgia, please join the conference calls.
Yeah,
every Monday night, like the link is in my bio. I said that I put my Instagram on there too.
So go to Zenya's.
If you don't do it, please do yourself a favor.
Yeah, because that's amazing. And then we want to do a master group once a month for 2 hours, and start working with maybe between like 5 or 10 people, and we'll do some of this really high level energy work, and it's going to be tailor-made for the music people, but I think it'll probably be about creative energy in general, whatever you want to do if you're wanting to move forward.
It's all hand in hand, and
I've been
mentoring people for years. Like some of my clients have been on the call, but obviously some of them had to leave, but I have seen major growth just because of my experience and my wisdom at this point. I have seen major, I really just don't judge anything at this point, where I'm like, oh, it's just a moment. Process the moment. Just
process the moment. That's right. And I want to say something about skydiving, because skydiving is like this crazy world that you get into. And as a goober, like beginner skydiver like me, you can go and train with the world champions. You can go and train. There's no other sport where like a goober, like person like me is like, no, I'm going to take up skydiving, like can go and then train with the world champions, the highest level. And these people, when you're just in the space with them, they are the embodiments of the greatest skill in skydiving. And so I always go and try and train with someone who's really worked at that level, because it's not just what they're teaching you with their mouth, it's being in the presence of them, it's being in it's being in their frequency field. And they wouldn't necessarily even know the stuff that they're doing. But anybody who's got that level of intelligence in a skill has it embedded in their frequency as well as in their mind and in their body. So because I started late to skydive, most people start in their 20s and I started in my 40s, I have to use all of my skills. So I often, after I've trained with these people, I sit and I meditate with their energy, because regardless of whether it's something subconsciously that I didn't pick up that they were telling me, it's a way of receiving it more fully, because I was too panicky while I was like learning from them. I will receive stuff that might have gone in subconsciously, but it's actually energetic. A lot of what suddenly I'll have these breakthroughs where I can do it after I've calmed myself down enough that all of this stuff begins to process. And it's kind of like energetic downloads. So the other power of a mastery group is that you're sitting with Zenya, who's vibed in at that level, and you're sitting with the work that I do that's also vibed in at a certain top level mastery level. We're joining forces to create a crucible that you can step into us with to elevate your conscious understanding of the work that you're doing, your skill level with singing or whatever that Zen you could provide, the skill level that I can provide on the energy tools, and then also the frequency activations, which is a big part of taking you next level, like really activating the frequencies. So Fan is the boot camp Fan, which we're still offering. We're going to keep it going. A 50% off for an hour after this live call ends. So you can get the Fan boot camp for half price, because that's going to give you that first base level skill, the tools, understanding the tools on a level that you won't know, that you won't know these tools. These tools are these special tools that are developed. Nobody else is teaching these tools in the way that I do them. With kind of Zenya's real world experiences. And then from that, understanding that we're creating this energy crucible every month to come into the master group with us. And we'll have more information about that out there soon. We just didn't get it together to have all that perfectly prepared for you. But when we post this because it was literally today after I was sitting with the energy of what I wanted to share, it was like, this tool I'm about to do with you all and the master group is the way that we want to follow up the bootcamp. But the bootcamp's awesome. It's not that expensive. It's 50% off right now. Get it, because you'll start getting these techniques there's years and years and years and years of energetic understanding behind them. And it'll give you a head start, even if you just start doing that, and then you can maybe join us with some of our offerings that we're going to use later once you start seeing how they work.
Yeah, we understand the depths of creatives and how deep creatives can feel and how stuck creatives can feel. And genuinely, this is a space of coming from our hearts of how we want to help and support people that are, I was saying to a friend today, I was like, do you ever feel like you really, really want to fit in somewhere, but you also don't want to fit in at the same time? And I was like, I know that a lot of people feel like they really want to fit in somewhere, but at the same time, they don't want to fit in at the same time. And that's me. I'm in that middle ground. I get to do really, really cool things, but I still feel like a total fish out of water. But I really do think that most people feel that way, even if they're in the group of people. It's just, we do really feel alone, and this is what this is for. It's like, let's
to create a community. Yeah. And a lot of actually people who are ahead of the game, people who are advancing consciousness, have that feeling, because they're bringing in intelligence that's actually evolving consciousness further. So it isn't an exact resonance with whatever already exists. And that's why people fan on these people, because it's like they're a little bit ahead, they're a little bit forward, people are attracted to it, they want to fan on it. And then that moves it all forward, whether it's artists who look like Vincent van Gogh, nobody at his time was like, whoa, this is the guy, and everyone's like, oh my god, let's walk.
And he had to die, and then it was like,
he had to die.
You know what I mean with that Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain, we just have all these crazy, beautiful souls that just have so much emotion, energy, emotion, and just couldn't just no one understood. And if I could just have spoken to you in this space and time that we're at, it's just having that support system. And I really hope that more people are able to advance to this space to support more people, because it can be a dark place sometimes when you're a creative.
It can be very hard for creatives.
It's how do you embrace that darkness and bring it through?
Yeah, and that's exactly why we would want to create like a master group. So it's a gathering place where you can kind of take that like, and then we'll rally around and, you know, keep the dog and pony show going. Because I certainly didn't have it when I was going through stand-up, and that was really difficult. But we want to really build that beautiful space for energy to get worked through. So even though you may feel that pain because you are touching collective energy a lot of times, you get to the expansion faster, and then you can trust that process. Then the roller coaster is always going up, and the ups and downs are less, and the ups are happening faster and bigger and better.
Yes, so we're ready for now.
So let's do this exercise. I want to share this with you before we go. And thank you again, everyone, for attending. And if you found this helpful, this recording will be on YouTube. I'll also be sending it out various ways in our email list, Instagram. Please pass it on to other creatives. It was a really great conversation. Thank you, Ms. Z, and everyone who's questions in the chats. All of these things that you've been bringing up, we would be addressing them in the master group as well. So here's what I want you to all do. So take a moment now, and I want you to think about. Please pass it on.
Oh my gosh.
To other creatives. It was a really great conversation. Thank you.
Wait, there's like a total technical.
Did you just put yourself on YouTube? You put yourself on the live, yeah. So there's my pasta.
Can we edit that?
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm going to make me eat it now, though.
Yeah, please.
Just mute everybody. So take a moment to just think of somebody. It could be somebody that you want to work with that feels quote unquote out of your league, because that's the illusion of separation. It could be this future version of yourself that's already doing and experiencing what you want to be doing or experiencing. Or it could just be somebody who is an embodiment, because they could be somebody who's already passed, for example, like Jimi Hendrix or something like that, who is holding a skill that you want or attained something that you want. And I want you to just visualize that person. And when you visualize that person, whether it's that future you or that collaborator you want to work with or that archetypal embodiment, when you visualize them, I want you to look for a quality that you see in them that you don't feel you have or have as much of right now. So you might have it a little bit, but you don't have all of it, or you don't have any of it. And when you do this exercise, it's really important to not judge yourself on that quality, to not say, oh my God, like that's really superficial of you to want, for example, like, you know, all the hotties are after me, you know, whatever it is. Like, don't judge the quality that you see or yourself for having it. But I want you to notice that what is a quality that you see in them that you don't feel you have or have as much of right now. And it could be a technical quality, or it could be an emotional quality, like that version of me just looks happier, or they can hit the high notes, or anything. Or they have 1 million followers on Instagram, whatever it is. And now we're going to do an integration that is going to bring the energy of that projection on that person back into you now. And I'm just going to ask you to go with me on this. I'm not going to explain what each one of these integrations is or why we would use it, but let's just say that each one of these integrations dissolves the illusion of separation that keeps that person up on a pedestal or somehow out of reach from you. And you're, in essence, when someone's up on a pedestal or out of reach from you, you're not a genuine vibrational match for that quality or that aspect. And therefore, you're not going to manifest it or be in it or experience it. So when I did this exercise with Vicki before she did the competitions, we looked at that. What is that quality of that first version of her that had already won the competition or that already had the top level representation or whatever? So find a quality that you see in them that you don't feel you have or have as much of right now. I'm doing it with the skydiver, champion skydiver. And when you've identified this aspect, you're going to say this in your head. So the first one is, I love and accept the part of me that doesn't believe I can have or be fill in the blank. So I'll use mine. Mine is like smooth, calm. So I would say, I love and accept the part of me that doesn't believe I can be smooth and calm. Now, I love and accept the part of me that wants to be fill in the blank. I love and accept the part of me that is afraid to be fill in the blank. I love and accept the part of me that is afraid to not be I love and accept the part of me that is already fill in the blank. And I just want you to imagine all the energy that you've projected on that person or that archetype or that future version of you that is in that concept. I want you to imagine pulling all of that energy off them, seeing it like streaks and balls of light, because it's your energy that you've projected onto them. You've given them that quality in either you see that in them or just in that they're part of your matrix creation. So pull that energy back. See it like streaks and balls of light and bring that energy into your heart. Because you want to be holding that energy in you now, now, now. Everything that arrives into manifestation arrives in the now moment. When you're holding your energy in you now, 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 you are now a vibrational match. If it's always out there in the future version of you has that, then the manifestation always stays out there in psychological time. You want to bring that into you now. And then just take another look at them. This time we'll do something a little bit different with this. is when you look at that person, what do you imagine somebody else sees in them that you don't believe you have or have as much of right now? And that could be somebody else whose opinion you value, for example, like maybe it's just like the industry or your father or whatever. What does that person see in that archetype that you don't feel you have or have as much of right now? Because a lot of the times we want to be somebody else because we think about how other people are going to think or perceive that person, and we believe our survival or our success or our expansion is reliant on other people. So it's really helpful to look through the eyes of other people, our projection on the eyes of other people, and also pull those projections back. So mine, for example, went from being smoothed and whatever it was, I can't remember now, to being experienced and mature. And I wouldn't have necessarily seen that through my eyes, but I saw it through this person's peer's eyes. And then we do the same thing. I love and accept the part of me that doesn't believe I can be or have fill in the blank. I love and accept the part of me that wants to be fill in the blank. I love and accept the part of me that is afraid to be I love and accept the part of me that is afraid to not be I love and accept the part of me that is already and again, just imagine all of the energy in that projection coming off that future version of yourself, or that embodiment archetype, or that person that you've put up on a pedestal, and bringing that energy into you now. And imagine that energy spreading, coming into your heart and spreading through your body, coming into your brain. Rewiring, refiring those neural pathways, neural bundles, neural networks. And you can also imagine that just out there in the infinite potential of everything that's out there in all consciousness, there's already an aspect of you, whether it's a future self, a past self, a past life, or it's just part of the organism of all consciousness that just exists, that's already fully resonating with that quality. And you really want to just kind of relax your body and bring it in like a download. Just like you're a computer and you're bringing in that program. You're bringing that energy into you now. Now, this is many of our techniques are really simple, and they're techniques, and because a lot of the times the mind actually wants to make things really complicated and be like, oh my gosh, you've got to build a star pyramid and you've got to do this and you've got to do all this, blah, 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 because the mind's job is designed to keep you in limitation. And the tools are actually designed to dissolve the mind that's trying to do that. So what I teach, or what we teach, are these simple integrative tools that do this really, really powerful work without a lot of extra time and complication and, energetic hoops to jump through, because they're just about pure consciousness. It's either working with you or it's working against you, quote unquote. But it's what you do with how the energy is flowing that either gives you the expansion or keeps you in a contraction on any level. So that's just a little taste. The full written out exercise of that is in the boot camp. I think it's in class 5. I'm not sure. Pretty sure it's in the boot camp. But it's one of the ones that we would be using and working with. And if you use that tool, the first step that I did, where you're just looking at it from your perspective, you could do that 3 or 4 times until you're not really seeing any difference, because that's eventually what will happen. When you have somebody up on a pedestal and you do that integration work, you energetically bring yourself up on the level where they no longer look better, shinier, more fabulous, or that illusion of separation is there, because you're actually holding that frequency in you. If you do that, then it's so much easier, say, for example, to reach out to somebody that you want to collaborate with when you're at the same energy level as them, because they don't feel it like someone's pulling on them or bringing them down or vampiring off them, or some of the many, sort of experiences that you have when people are trying to work with other people. Like, it either feels needy, when you're full of your own energy, you're not going to come across as like needy or desperate or whatever, because you're full of your own energy. You don't need from that person. You're just wanting to resonate with them and bring something new into birth. So that's why that's a really powerful tool to work with. And you're also, when you feel on the same level as something, you don't trigger your nervous system into reacting and wanting to push against it, because it doesn't feel outside of your known zone, which is another big thing we talk about in the boot camp, why people self-sabotage themselves when they're going for goals that feel outside of their current level of happening, because it feels outside of their known zone, and that will activate the subconscious sabotaging behavior of the nervous system. So look, planning to share, planning to teach. Does anyone have anything they want to share, or question, comment, concern before we sign off here? Zenya, do you want to unmute? Do you have any final words?
I unmuted myself. I'm so computer illiterate. I'm not going to lie. I don't even know how to get my screen back. I mean, honestly, that exercise has always helped me. 1,000 times it's helped me.
Yeah. It's so simple, but it's just a game changer. Total game changer. And I love
doing it with the future version of myself.
Yeah. And sometimes, because some of those integrations, they're actually integrating inner child aspects. So say in that thing where sometimes we're projecting onto, like I used to do it, like I'm going to win an Oscar, and that future version has this idea that there's something better about me because it's coming from an inner child that's actually feeling lack inside. So when you love up that part is less likely to sabotage you as you're moving forward. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into it all, but it works on really deconstructing the ego, so your powerful consciousness can really just flow through you and manifest and generate in the best way possible. Yeah, I think that's anything anyone wants to share.
Everybody unmute. Can we
people just unmute themselves if they want to share?
I don't even know how to get my question box back here. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, it's down in comments. I don't think there's any questions in there. So I think we might sign off. I know we've gone a little bit over time, and just want to thank everybody again for joining us. Please stay tuned. Sign up for the boot camp. Honestly, there's 5 of those exercises in there already that are really epic. Please spread the word. Please, be in touch with us and look out for our the masterclass that we'll be releasing information on. And also get in touch and tell us, what do you need? What do you want? Because we can sit here all day going, oh, I think this would be great. And then nobody really wants that. So feel free. I'm at Circle Evolution on Instagram, Miss Zenya at Instagram. Hit us up, slide into our DMs and tell us what you need.
Baby. I'm I'm here to help. I'm just here to help. I'm here to support,
Like, do you feel you need something where it's like you want to, because we've thought about doing things like where we have an ongoing text message thing where we're just kind of doing this sort of constant gentle coaching with voice notes and messaging. Do you want the gathering of the mastermind group? I think that's actually super powerful, but just give us some of the ideas of what you want, because we want to collaborate with you to give you the best offering that we can to support you. And we'll catch you.
Thanks for your questions. And is it Axel? Is that your name? I love your name. Your name is so cool. Yes, it's such a cool name. I was like, Axel, yeah. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Reka. And I know, I had my people were on earlier, but my music people, they're all around the world. So I gotta
all around the world. Brian's got a question. What's your question, Brian? Type it in or unmute if you're on. You can ask it as a human being. How do I get an ex-lover who vibrates at a lower frequency than me that I don't want to be with it? How do I let an ex-lover who vibrates at a lower frequency? That's something that we could work on a session with, because I definitely have tools for stuff like that. So I think that's kind of moving into another realm. But I would be looking at, honestly, even though you think they're at a lower vibration, if you're still got some kind of point of attraction there's probably some energy that they're holding. Because even that idea of lower frequency thing, that can become a bit of a spiritual trap. There's probably an unconscious energy that you have that you're projecting onto her, that you would want to do some integration work to release the point of charge and attraction. Even if she's showing up in your life and it's creating a storyline for you that has charge, there's an energetic connection point somewhere that you might just need to work with to release, and that would create the separation there. And that is an exercise that's my like a basic exercise that I share all the time. And if it's a real problem, then we could do a one-on-one session on that. But always, if you take total ownership that everything is in your creation, even that lower vibrational energy is a source of energy. You're seeing it, it's showing up for you, so you can harvest energy from that. So maybe it's stuff that's still in your shadow that you need to integrate before you can have a greater expansion. And that's why the energy is showing up. I know some of these ways of explaining things aren't always popular to us, but we have a lot of unconscious energy that we need to integrate in order to expand. So I always work with, if it's charge, it's energy, it's in my matrix, I need to love and accept the part of me that's creating and generating that. And then when you do that work, usually people fade out.
Hey, man, at least you got a whole bunch of lovers. I love that.
Yeah, I know. But listen, it's for all the things, for all the things. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Georgia G, Circle Evolution. She's Zenya.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you the next time. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.